want to talk about this, like 48 hours is not a lot of time. If you are able to organize your time and organize your people, you will be happy with what you have at the end of this. And to do that, this ties right in with like professional game development and the role of the producer. So Jessica is going to talk to us a little bit about and give us some tips and tricks. She's been a producer on like a couple of projects that have finished. So Jessica.
Okay, so thank you guys so much for being here. Today I will be talking about one of the role producers. We're trying to make this quick. We'll be talking about what is a producer, first of all, and how to even start being a producer, as well as more things that relates to being a producer, which is our backlogs and scope, which I will talk about at the end. So a little bit about me and why you should listen to me about this. I am currently running 2 ongoing projects. One of them is actually from Game Dev, which is RepairP, and it has won Best Narrative as well as Best Art. And a recent one that I've been working on is Arena Crunch, which is an accounting game for business. This game actually has been being played from both SJSU and UC Santa Cruz. And I have experience with both working with a producer as well as being a producer in both ways. Another thing is that I have taken a lot of certificates to learn about what it's like to be a producer and how to be an effective producer. So, if this is your first time making a game, you might be asking, well, what is a producer? And basically, a producer is a person within a team project that ensures that all of the games and tasks are delivered in a timely manner, and also focusing on team morale. A lot of people might think, oh yeah, the producer just tells me what to do and that's it, but no, it's actually a lot more than that. Producers make sure that everyone on the team is doing or has a task to do, because it really sucks sometimes when a team is big enough and you might not have a task to do, or you might not know what to do. The producer is there to make sure that you have something to do, as well as feeling really good about the team and feeling motivated to work on the project that you're working. It also acts like a cheerleader, and this has been said from producers I've heard from the game industry, that when you're a producer, you are their cheerleader. You are you are their support, and whenever someone has a problem or hey, I don't know if I can finish this project or this task, the producer is there to help lead you through it rather than leave you alone. And also, believe it or not, the producer is the backbone of the game industry. You might think, oh yeah, coders and artists are the main thing, right? But beneath that, there's also a producer that helps run the team and make sure that they work efficiently. And so part of a producer, there's multiple ways to apply methods of how to run a team. And today I'll be talking about Scrum. And the reason why I'm talking about this type of framework of being a producer is because this is actually used in a lot of tech companies. So all of FANG, for example, Riot, EA, they use the Scrum method, which I will be helping you learn through Game Jam, which is a very short amount of time. So with Scrum, one of the main thing is that it's very flexible. And one of the reasons why it's flexible is sometimes you can't follow a schedule to a T. Things has changed. Things change during the hours that you're working on the game or on the project. And Scrum is here to make sure that we can work through it, we can be very adaptive to whatever situation we are in. So I'm going to talk about first is sprint, which is basically, as it may sound, you're sprinting to the finish line. Every time there's a sprint, you have to finish something in a short, an amount of time for to achieve something. So for example, with Game Jam, the sprint is actually literally to finish the game. And we have at least 72 hours, less than 72 hours to finish. And this is just to make sure that you are on track to finish within the quote-unquote sprint. Backlogs, part of Scrum is with backlogs, you get a series of tasks and you see it visually, or either visually or through text of okay, what are we supposed to do? How are we supposed to finish this sprint? aka finishing the game, and you'll be given like multiple tasks which can be assigned to your teammates and etc. to make sure that everyone is on the right track and everyone knows what each other are doing or what we are doing together. As part of Scrum, every single day they do daily check-ins, and it's not like a meeting of sort. It's to make sure that to know what are you doing, what have you finished, and things that you haven't finished, and what can we do to move forward, or what can the producer do to help the person or the teammate. And lastly is retrospect, which is at the end of the sprint. You look back of your progress and see what did we do, what could we do better, and move on to the next sprint, which is, different projects. But this is our, or different game jams in the future. But with this, we focus on one sprint. And backlogs. So today I'll be mostly talking about GitHub backlogs because a lot of people will be using GitHub to code together and communicate together of each other codes. There's also Trello, which is its sole backlog. It tells you, or it gives you multiple templates of how to design your task. So but we'll mostly be focusing on GitHub. And we'll talk more about that later, which also applies to Trello, so don't worry about it. Okay, so I'm going to be switching my screen real quick to show. So unfortunately, I won't be able to talk about GitHub very much, but I will be talking about more how to create a backlog. So first, you go into projects. This is your main profile, so you should be able to see at the UI, overview, repository, projects, and packages, stars. You should have a repository for your game when you're collaborating with one another for Game Jam. So once you make your repository, you'll be able to create a new project. And with here, I'm not sure if you're able to see from the screens, but there's different ways of organizing your backlog. But today we'll be talking about boards. Some other templates show more visual timeline, but today we'll be talking about board, which just helps compile everything together. So when you create a new project, there'll be the main thing you want to focus on is number one, the tasks that you are making. All the tasks, when you're making a game, you have to think, okay, so how do we start even making a game, right? So first off, we need some coders. Okay, if we have coders, what does the coder do in order to make your game succeed and finish? So you have to put all the mechanics that you want, all of the tiny things that would be able to make your game, a game. Same thing with artists, background artists, sound people, anything that you are thinking of to make your game possible, you put it here under the to-do list. And with this, you'll be able to visually see how much you have done or how much you'll have. And a way to create your task is at the bottom here, you'll see add items. And let's say I'm well, my game is a script, script to have people laugh. So we'll just type script down here and you hit send, or hit send, and it's in draft. This also applies to Trello, which is another backlog website. So with draft, you can either talk about, or you can even put more comments about the what the script has to be about. But for now, we're just gonna convert this into issue. And for me, I'm gonna put the project into the repository that I'm working on for the Game Jam. Secondly, within the backlog, you'll be able to assign people tasks. So the reason why this is very important is because some people might not have something to do, and you'll be able to visually see it physically. Oh, so one person has 10 tasks to do, but this other person only has 2. If you're able to see it visually, you'll be able to talk to one another and be flexible with oh yeah, I think this one person does have a lot of tasks to do. Let's try to shift that 10 tasks into the person that only has 2 tasks. And this is a way to know what you're doing and see their progress. So once you're finished, let's say I assign this. In order to assign it, you have to press the task itself, And let's say over here, to the right side of the GitHub page, I'm gonna talk mostly about like the assignees, which is to assign people, right? Unfortunately, I don't have anyone in this backlog, so I'll just assign myself. So once I assign myself, you'll be able to see now that, oh, I'm gonna be working on the script. So you don't have to like do a job that's like gonna overlap with my job, because that I already said that I'll do this. And this is what the producer essentially do. They make sure that everyone has a task to do, and they would put this into the backlog. And I'm gonna show you an example because I think we are short on time. So this is a little bit more huge. Unfortunately, this is a summer project, but hopefully you can understand the gist of what I mean by the assignment. So you'll see like some of the work is on me and another is on someone else. And you'll see here at the top, it will show like what is your current position with the game and how your game is going so far. And it really helps to think like, oh, the game is almost finished, because a lot of them are in progress or in review. So if you see this is more motivated to like work on the like tasks that you see like aren't being really like touched on. And eventually, if you're able to move each task, like for example, like let's say this finding mechanic tab. Let's say the finding mechanic tab is done. You'll be able to move it over to done, and you'll see like, oh yeah, so thank you. So you'll be able to see like all the progress that you make, and to be honest, it's really motivating to see like how much work you've done through this backlog, because without the backlogs, sometimes you might not even know how far you get into the game, or how far you got into your the creation of your game. I have seen a lot of projects fall because there wasn't a proper producer or a proper backlog. And I'm telling you right now, heads up, it is really important to constantly update your backlog. And there's other minor things, but I think I'm gonna move on from it. If you have any questions, just reach out to me. But yeah, that's the basically, I think we'll be sending the link as well to the Discord so you can look more in depth about it. So, and I want to talk more about scope, because a lot of times when you're thinking of game, it's really cool shit, right? You'll be like, oh my god, I want my this game about clowns that teeth are falling off or something weird, right? And then a lot of people will contribute oh yeah, that's such a great idea. I want this other some dragons coming by into the game, or some first-person shooter, right? But you have to think, we only have less than 72 hours to really finish this game. I know that a lot of us have really great ideas. Unfortunately, with producers, a hard part about it is you have to think, is it realistic to add a first-person shooter within 72 hours? Probably not. So that's what also the producer does, is they have to be realistic with the time frame that you have, or else the game will never finish, especially within 72 hours. So how I like to visualize it is, think of it as a jar. So if a 72-hour jar is probably tiny, right? Think about all the things that you want, mainly the core mechanics. Focus on what type of game you're trying to look for. See if it can fit in the jar first, and then the tiny spaces in between, try to think, okay, is it possible to add this this tiny art style into this jar? And if it doesn't, visually, then probably have to scrap it. And that's the hardest part, because I know all of you guys most likely have really great ideas, right? Just think about it. 72 hours. Have to make it realistic. And if you need help, officers can come by and talk about it. We can talk through it with you guys. And yeah, so what I've talked about today is backlogs. Make sure, by the end of today, have at least a board ready, whether through Trello, which I haven't really talked about, but it's essentially the same with GitHub, and that. And think about the scope as well within the time frame that we have, which is realistically even less than 72 hours, like I've said, or like I mentioned. And yeah, that's about it. And yep, thank you for listening. If you have any questions, just come up to me and I can explain it more in depth. But right now, we're kind of time crunch right now. So yeah, thank you.